almost called the police on my neighbor once. And honestly, I'm still a little embarrassed about it. When I first moved into that neighborhood, I wasn't looking to make friends or be part of a community. I had just gone through a big change. New job, new city, new apartment. And I mostly wanted to be left alone. I just wanted to start fresh and figure things out without anyone noticing me. The street was quiet and normal, with trees along the sidewalks, the same mailboxes in front of every house, and neighbors who waved politely but never stopped to talk. It was the kind of place where nothing happened, and that was exactly what I wanted. At first, everyone seemed normal, except for the man who lived right across from me. I saw him the first night I moved in. It was around 10 p.m., and I was carrying boxes inside when I looked up and saw him standing on his porch. He wasn't sitting, wasn't on his phone, and wasn't leaning on the railing. He was just standing there looking at the street and then at me. I gave a quick nod like a normal neighbor greeting, but he didn't respond at all. At first, I thought he was probably tired or distracted, or maybe just someone who liked to keep to himself. But then I started noticing a pattern. Almost every night at the same time, he would be outside on the porch. Sometimes he had his hands on the railing. Sometimes he just stood there, looking toward the road like he was waiting for something that never came. It wasn't scary, but it was strange, and I couldn't stop noticing it. A few days later, Mrs. Carter from next door caught me while I was checking the mail. She was the sweet neighbor who somehow knew everyone's birthday. After a few minutes of small talk, she asked, "Have you met the man across the street yet?" I said carefully that he didn't seem very friendly. She gave a small smile and said he mostly keeps to himself. She changed the subject quickly, but I remember feeling curious about what she meant. Looking back, that was probably the first hint that he was watching out for something. Weeks went by, and my life fell into a routine: work, groceries, gym, sleep. But the neighbor, whose name I later learned was Daniel, kept showing up in little, strange ways. Sometimes I would come home late and see him standing there. Sometimes I left early and saw him sitting on the porch steps, staring at nothing. And one night, the moment that really got to me, I woke up at 3 a.m. and looked out the window. He was there again, porch light off, street empty, barely visible. That was the first time I thought something was off about him. Not dangerous, just a little strange. Then one evening things changed. I had just come home from work and noticed Daniel wasn't on the porch. He was standing near my driveway. Not too close, but close enough to make me nervous. When I stepped out, he nodded and said, "You're home late." It wasn't mean, just a simple statement. "Yeah, work ran long," I said. He looked down the street and added quietly, "Good. I always worry when I don't see your car." That sentence stuck in my mind, and that night I double-checked every door and window before going to bed. After that, I started noticing more small things. If a delivery sat outside too long, it would suddenly be closer to the door. One morning I forgot to close the garage, and when I woke up, it was shut. No note, no message. Just everything back where it should be. Instead of feeling thankful, I felt watched. The turning point came about 2 months later. I had to travel for a 3-day work trip. Before leaving, I thought about setting up a cheap camera inside, but I decided I was probably being paranoid. Nothing ever happens in quiet neighborhoods, right? When I came back, my trash cans were neatly lined up by the garage instead of being tipped over like they usually were. Then I saw an envelope under the doormat. Inside was a note with 3 short lines written neatly. "Package moved inside your side gate so it wouldn't be stolen. Trash cans brought in after pickup. Welcome home." No name, no signature. My stomach twisted. Instead of feeling relieved, I kept thinking, how closely is this man watching my house? A few nights later, around midnight, I woke to a sound outside. Metal clattering softly. My heart started beating fast. I went to the window and looked through the blinds. 2 people were walking slowly down the street, checking car doors one by one. I reached for my phone. Then I saw movement across the street. Daniel stepped onto his porch. He didn't shout or run after them. He just turned on all the lights outside and sat down in a chair, facing the street. The 2 people noticed quickly and were gone. No shouting, no drama, just light and presence. Hit me suddenly. He wasn't watching me. He was watching the street. Protecting it. Protecting everyone. The next morning, I went across the street before I could overthink it. He was watering plants near the porch. Up close, he looked older than I thought, with deep lines around his eyes from years of squinting at the sun, or maybe just from worrying. "I saw what happened last night," I said. He nodded once. "Happens more than people think," he said. I hesitated, then asked, "Have you been keeping an eye on things this whole time?" He turned off the hose and said something I will remember forever. "My daughter used to live here. She was about your age, lived alone, and thought nothing bad could happen in a nice neighborhood. One night someone broke into her car. Nothing major, but it scared her. After that I started sitting out here more. Just in case." I swallowed. "Does she still live nearby?" "Yes." He shook his head slowly. "She passed. Drunk driver. About 5 years ago. I couldn't protect her. But I can sit on a porch. No drama. No pity. Just truth." Suddenly, every strange thing made sense. The porch, the notes, the garage, the quiet worry when my car wasn't there. I felt a wave of guilt that hit me like a punch. "I almost called the police on you," I said. He laughed softly. "You wouldn't be the first new neighbor," he said, picking up the watering can again. "Fear usually means someone cares whether you make it home." After that day, everything changed. Now, when I come home late, I wave and he nods back. Sometimes we talk about small things, weather, work, or the pothole at the end of the street. But underneath it all, there's an understanding. I stopped seeing a stranger on the porch. I started seeing someone who turned his grief into watching over the street. Months later, during a storm that knocked out power across half the neighborhood, I saw him sitting under a battery lantern, still watching. Still there. And for the first time since moving to this city, I felt completely safe. I almost called the police on my neighbor. Instead, I found something better. The quiet comfort of knowing that if my porch light is ever the last one on at night, someone across the street is still awake, making sure I get home.